So we go way back to chapter 1. Some functions are discontinuous, meaning if you were going to graph the function, at some point you would have to pick up your pencil. One kind of discontinuity was jump discontinuity, and we saw this with piecewise functions all the time. The name kind of tells you exactly what happens. You're following along your function, minding your own business, when suddenly, holy cow, you're way up here. This jump is an issue for limits. If I want to know what the limit is as x approaches 0, note that on the left-hand side, I'm approaching -2. That's this point here, that's an open circle. On the right-hand side, I'm approaching +2. So I get different numbers that y is approaching, even as x is approaching the same thing. We use the abbreviation DNE, does not exist, to talk about that limit. We will eventually talk about left and right limits separately, but for right now, just know that the overall limit there doesn't exist. That function does not approach one unique value. Example 2 here is also a discontinuity that we have played with in the past. We would have called this infinite discontinuity in chapter 1. So what that means, if we are trying to look at this limit as x approaches -2, on one side, that function shoots down to -infinity, and on the other side, it shoots off to +infinity. So once again, we have left and right limits that do not match, and we also have them going off to forever. So one's going down to -infinity, one to positive. That is another kind of limit that does not exist. The last one is new. We haven't played around with oscillating functions much. Sine and cosine oscillate, but they do so predictably. This function has a big mess going on there in the middle. So let's shoot over to Desmos and zoom in and see what happens. So if we look at plain old boring sine of x, this pretty purple function here, it would have a limit at 0. That limit would be 0. On both the left and the right, sine of x approaches 0. But a really common oscillating function is sine of 1 over x. This is the one that they are showing us here in the notes. Yeah, close enough at least. So when we jump back to Desmos there, we see that same thing happening in the middle. If I go ahead and press play on the slider, you can see that these x values are approaching 0, but the y values are not approaching any particular number. They're negative, they're positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. It's like the graph can't make up its mind. So it never approaches any particular value. What I like about Desmos is I can zoom in and we see this. No matter how close I get, there's just more graph to show. So we can never see a value that this thing approaches. As a side note, because all this scripting is happening client side, you can brick your Chromebook this way. Have fun!